Hello, everybody, and welcome to Elseworlds Exchange. I'm Sal.
And I'm Joel.
This is a show here on ComicPop Returns where we take a topic and hash it out for about an hour. Today's topic is comic tropes that we think need to stop, or at least ease off on. And before you start, no, we're not talking about Chris from Comic Tropes. He doesn't need to stop.
Though I'm sure if he sees this thing, he might, be like, ooh.
Yeah, show up and be like, how dare you? The next video he does will be like, comic pops that need to stop.
Comic pops that need stopping. And Joels who don't need capes.
Exactly. Capes, Joel. Yeah, exactly. So, but no. So I did it. I did the joke. It's over.
Hey, you know what, Comic Tropes? Be happy that Eddie Kingston knows and loves you and doesn't know me.
Yeah, despite how many videos have you made where you talk about him?
Yeah, really.
But yeah, this show, by the way, is sponsored by you out there. If you're watching the show live, which some of you might be, we were supposed to start an hour later, and then we went, let's just start now. It was literally just my schedule freed up. I'm like, oh my God, I might actually be able to have lunch at lunchtime. So, but yeah, if you want to do so, you could use a super chat or ask a question or comment, weave it in here on the show, throw us an idea or a thought you have about a trope that's in comics that you think needs to change or die. Joel, where did this concept come from? We were just talking about it off mic where we were like, wait, what is this? Like,
yeah, what
were we talking about?
It happens all the time in this. We'll get a great idea 4 weeks ago, but won't actually do the show.
Yeah,
until later. But basically, that show Workaholics, I've never actually watched it, but was aware of it mainly because of funny GIFs people put on Twitter.
Yes.
One of the writers put up a whole whiteboard of basically like comedy cliches and low-hanging fruit that they dedicated to themselves as a show to not do. Yes. And the whiteboard itself was very extensive. And, I think myself a connoisseur of funny things. I think I, have a sharp wit. And I will say a lot of the stuff on this board, I'm like, oh yeah, that's stupid. But I like that one, though. Really? You're going to not do that? I mean, yes, it's a comedy shortcut, but oh, man.
Yeah, but I like that because it's one of those things where it is art from adversity.
Very.
It's one of those things that I've been talking about for years where I'm like, whenever a creator like gets rid of an editor or like, I'm like, no, you need some kind of struggle. You need some kind of adversity. You need someone to say, not even no, but just like, are you sure? Or why?
Absolutely. It's heat, man. You got to be on your toes where you got to be all the time.
Yeah.
Can't get lazy. Can't get complacent.
Here's the whiteboard, by the way.
Yes. So again, some real winners in there, like more like a Shark Week. Can you not? I can explain. Finger to mouth. Yeah. A lot of these are really stupid, but some of them are even stuff like on steroids or on crack. Like I say that all the time. Am I doing low-hanging comedy fruit?
Yes. Laffy McLafferson, like something.com. That's not a thing. Thanks, I guess. Little help. Yeah. I love them getting rid of this. And now, by the way, we're talking about writers on a comedy show, but it did inspire you to go like, is there a whiteboard somewhere? Should there be a whiteboard
for
somewhere?
Comics, yeah.
In like the bullpen at the Big Two or just in comics in general that needs to be up there? And if so, what's on that whiteboard? Let's fill the whiteboard with comic book tropes to make comics better. Because that's what Workaholics is doing. They're trying to make the shows better, more innovative, more funny. Trying to get rid of some of this like garbage, or at the very least, trim the fat. So let's talk about some of the fat that's in comics right now. What are some tropes that you see in comics? And I'm sure, by the way, there's going to be some cross-pollination from comics, movies, and TV, but it's all visual media, so it makes sense that you're like, I'm done. I'm done with this. It's time for it to stop.
Well, here's one that you and I have been talking about a lot in the last couple of years, and that is villains who want to break the hero, but only in a very vague sense. We complained about it when Thomas Wayne was doing it in the Tom King Batman book. We complained about it when Kindred was doing it in the Nick Spencer Spider-Man book. I am sick of villains who want to break the heroes in vague ways. I'm not saying you can't break the hero, but you need to have a 5-point plan and you need to actually explain what your end game is for it.
Right, because that was very much one of the main complaints about the Kindred arc was, what is Kindred's goal? Where will Peter be at the end of it? And why? And it's just, it was all, and now just Spencer was hamstrung by a number of other factors, but
clearly
the point remains, like Joker War. Joker's like, that's it. I'm breaking Batman. I'm going to destroy Gotham. Destroy Gotham.
It's been done.
Everybody wants to destroy Gotham. We destroyed Gotham last week.
We sure did. It was easy.
It was easy. We didn't even destroy it. We destroyed Gotham. We just took it off the table so you could put it right back.
Yeah.
But yeah, villains need to break the hero. Like, it's always, I understand, I was reading an old Spider-Man story arc the other day from legitimately from 96 or 94. And it was so by the numbers. But there was a moment in the middle of the arc where Spider-Man just goes, we're not going to catch the villain right now. Why don't we all just take 5? And 50% of the team went home and banged their wives. And,
nice.
And I'm like, I love that they, at home, the turmoil was non-existent. Like, this was a Spider-Man adventure. There's no ethereal concept that he's racked with. There's no big, reveal. He's trying to stop. Actually, they're trying to save a hero from a bad guy organization,
right?
Which ironically was called the Secret Empire. But they're trying to stop these bad guys, these faceless goons and cyborgs. That's it. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that comics need to get back to the way they were, but I am saying it was, on one hand, a little bit refreshing, and on the other hand, a little bit frustrating, because I'm like,
I hear you.
It's pretty by the numbers. There was no other conflict. Interestingly enough, that arc was not written by the series regular Michelini.
Oh, really?
And Michelini would have absolutely put a subplot about Mary Jane doing something. Yeah. And that's the storytelling that we expect from serialized fiction, where it's like A plot, superhero stuff, B plot, secret identity stuff.
You nailed it when you said conflict, because that's what it really boils down to. This, right? I must break the hero. You're trying to ratchet up conflict, either organically or inorganically. It needs to be like, no, the hero's not safe, no matter what he's doing. Like, oh, he's coming from in the costume. He's coming from in his home life there. He can't breathe. He can't be safe. It's total war. It's not just costume war.
Well, and it's, when you keep doing that, it loses its impact, its effect. I remember...
And we do keep doing it, and it is losing its
impact. That's the thing, right? That's the problem, because that's a great idea. The villain trying to break the hero psychologically or in a vague sense is not an inherently bad idea. But when it's the only idea, or when it's done too many times, like I saw Doc Ock has a big plan for Spider-Man in an upcoming story, and I'm like, still?
Yeah.
Like, how about you put him away for a little while? That's another trope, but
why don't you rob a bank?
Yeah. I mean, he's doing stuff in Beyond, but again, he's in Beyond.
He is.
Doc Ock has got more screen time
in the last 2 months.
2 months than he has in the last 20 years.
Also, those writers clearly aren't talking to each other, because his motivation is all over the damn place, to where even Maxine Danger says your motivations make no sense.
Yeah, well, nobody's talking to each other. But yeah, I was just thinking about another Spider-Man story where it was the first time he deals with Venom, and Venom knows who he is. And it's one of the few villains that knows who he is in the modern era, who also couldn't trigger a spider sense. So he's fighting Spider-Man. Oh no, superhero versus supervillain. Then he changes into his civilian outfit. Oh no, Venom's still going for him.
Big moment.
That tension is, you can't, you if you could, you should bottle it and sell it, because it's
why people fell in love with Venom, because they never seen it before.
And he never stopped. He never stopped coming for him. And
a horror movie.
And that's awesome when it's a break from the norm. But if that's the norm, it's exhausting.
Yeah, you can't keep that level of drama for long, or else it becomes the norm. It becomes passe, and then you're just like, oh, God, can we do anything else right now, please? Which is how we felt at the end of that Batman and Spider-Man run we used as examples. Can we please do anything else?
Yeah. And they're like, no. Or here's something else, and it's weird.
Yeah.
What's another one we got here?
Yeah, I got a whole list in front of
I
me
know
right
you do.
here.
I'm looking right at it.
Okay. You kind of mentioned this before, so let's dovetail off it. Comic events that end in the word war.
Yeah.
It was one thing when only one company was doing it, but now both of them are doing it. We got the Joker War, the Sinister War, the Shadow War coming soon from Joshua Williamson. How many war? The Secret Wars, the Civil Wars.
Yeah, it's nonstop wars. The Ranthanagar War. I remember reading that Zdarsky wanted to call they wanted his Devil's Reign to have war in the title.
Devil's
originally.
War.
Yeah, I think it was you know what it was? It was DC was doing a war, and it had the same title, and they couldn't do it.
Oh, really?
Something else. In any case.
Oh, did they want to call it Shadow War because it's like Shadow Lamb, but Joshua Williamson's like, haha, did it first.
I think so. But
that kind of makes sense because all of Devil's Reign is like, well, what if we did Shadowland but better?
what if we merged Shadowland and Civil War and made another event out of it?
Well, then you got Shadow War, buddy.
Shadow War? Now, yes, wars need to end. No one's.
We believe in peace on this show. Wars need to end.
Yeah, but Secret Wars, every war, it's become a trope.
It is,
and it's just like
it's a cliche. It's ridiculous. I facepalm every time I see it. I'm like, you could have called that anything else. Is there some like metric we're not seeing here? Do war stories sell better?
Well, the reason Secret Wars was the title of the 1984 superhero Secret Wars, and I'm sure you know the story, is because they did some market research and said that 2 words that children gravitate towards were secret and wars.
And yes, there is a metric.
That was, like, I would love to see that study, by the way, but like, they just titled it that because they were like, the secret thing is intriguing and kids are like, what's the secret? And war is it implies it's
what is
huge.
It good for? A lot, actually.
Yeah. Oorah. So yes, I'd say it's time to retire the war, because then the next time you use it, it'll be much more bombastic.
It'll be much more special. I say, dust off some other subheadings that we haven't used in a while. Gauntlet. What if it was the Sinister Gauntlet or the Joker Gauntlet? That's a good one.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, you think look at the like some of the more successful Marvel events after Civil War. None of them had the word war in the title because Civil War was the big one.
Yep.
Secret Invasion, House of M. Like, they don't have war in the title. And then Secret Wars happen, and it's like, oh, it's an homage. It's in any case.
And to Marvel's credit, again, they have like explored in the last couple of years. Well, what about Empire? It's kind of spelt different. So you're like, oh yeah, what's that about there?
Yeah.
Even like Secret Empire, again, Marvel's really in love with that. And let's dust off old titles actually and bring them back again. Because you get old fans being like, oh, I remember that, and young fans like, oh, well, maybe I should pick up this old one and see if there's any connection.
Yeah. If I may throw out another tired trope that
Please do.
It's actually, I don't even know if it's like a trope, but it's something I'm suggesting because it's like apropos. One of the big tent poles of all these things is that, like, when it comes to Joker or Doc Ock, like, they need to stop using a villain that is popular because they're popular.
If you ring them too much, they run out of juice, and then you hate seeing them.
Exactly. Joker, Doc Ock, these characters have been overused. You need to have like a moratorium on certain villains where it's like, you use them to full effect, take them off the table. Joker War, what happened? He got his own friggin' book.
Yeah. Which is actually pretty solid, but it's more about Jim Gordon.
Yes, and I get that. I actually admire Tynion for taking DC's money and making a secret Jim Gordon book that people wouldn't have bought if it was called, like, The Life and Times of James Gordon. I get it.
It's a good trick. I love people being like, oh, I can't wait to read this Joker book. Oh, wow, that was the best Jim Gordon series I've read in a long time.
Exactly.
You tricked me, but I'm not mad at you.
Getting into the super chats really quick, because a couple of people had some terrific ideas. Hudson Curry, Tynion is back at DC. That didn't take long. Also, RIP to Meatloaf. You'll be missed. Yes, Meatloaf passed. Louis Anderson passed away as well. It's a real shame. But yes, Tynion is back. They bribed him to do some Sandman stuff,
which I think he really loved anyway, because wasn't he involved in that Vertigo reboot rebrand anyway?
I don't remember, honestly. I just know that, like, He loves Sandman.
It's pretty nice to know there where it's like, okay, what's the shiniest penny we can bring to get you back? I will write more Sandman. Okay, we will let you do that then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the other thing is DC is never afraid to overpay.
Yes. Oh, very much.
Marvel is notoriously penny pinching.
Mm-hmm,
DC will always overpay. I just read recently, Dark Knight Strikes Again, one of the worst sequels in comic book history.
Yes.
They paid Frank Miller $2 million.
Money well spent.
As if Syed said, hi, guys. Hope you're having a good day. I hope you are too, man. Thank you. Dan S., the death of blank character stories.
I mean, death in general is its whole thing. They know death has been so cheapened in comic books right now. I mean, they killed Doctor Strange and then brought him right back.
Like in the same issue.
Yeah.
It was, the death of the Inhumans, death of Doctor Strange, death of Superman. It's been done.
It's a joke. It's a joke. Death doesn't matter. We know it doesn't matter. Why even trying at this point, guys?
Just let it go. Again, it's one of those things where if you don't use it, the death of Justice League, that's coming out.
Yes,
soon.
that's right. Friggin' Newsweek was talking about that.
I can't believe they are because it's a joke. Like it's Justice League was hitting 75 issues. Josh Williamson is pretty much in charge over at DC now. Mm-hmm. He's a big 90s fan. He was reading comics like the rest of us. And he wants to make a Superman 75 joke.
Yeah.
And people are like, this won't stick. I'm like, it's not designed to stick.
None of these are designed to stick. I can't remember the last death in comics that was actually designed to stick. Can you?
Right. No. That they meant to do, where they were like, we're killing this character because we really want to get them off the table.
Yeah, we want to keep them dead.
Maybe the Inhumans.
Maybe. And even then, they're coming back when that Ms. Marvel show takes off.
Unless they retcon her.
Yeah. I don't think they will, though.
No. Ali Al-Ziadi, hey, Sal, I know you have heard this a lot by now, but I hope the sentiment doesn't ring hollow when I say congrats on 100,000 subs. Take care. No. Honestly, first of all, Ali, thank you so much. And especially big thank you to everybody who has been lauding us with congratulations and kindness. You guys have been amazing. You've been so generous and friendly and it's been overwhelming to see the outpouring of kindness and support about us reaching this milestone. As well as I do, we've been trying to reach this for we saw it within reach and we were just trying to reach it. And big thanks to Mr. Sunday for helping us just tip the scales for in our favor a little bit quicker than we were planning. Thank you all so much. It's been incredible. And no, I'm not tired.
It happened to nicer people.
You're very kind. Thank you, sir. Sam Anderson must mention the let's go back framing structure. If it's a back issues joke, it's a trope. That's fair. Yeah, move the car, George, is a trope, which I'm happy with, but it's also something that I'm annoyed by. The move the car, George trope. If you're not familiar, we coined it. It's a ComicPop trope. Move the car, George. The idea here being it was in an issue of Amazing Spider-Man when the Clone Saga, the first Clone Saga happened. There's a whole sequence where Jackal is driving a bus and there's a couple in a VW Microbug and the car stalls and George can't move the car. And his girlfriend in the passenger seat says, move the car, George. And he says, I can't. The engine stalled. And for 4 panels, she says, move the car, George. And he's keeps insisting that he can't. And then the bus the Jackal's driving hits the Volkswagen. It flips over, it spins, and then they're just resting upside down. And she says, I told you to move the car, George. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell this scene is for. It's such a stupid joke. But I attribute that to any sequence where we just do a hard cut from whatever we're doing in the comic book to focus on characters that have no bearing on the story or any of the characters we've never met before, we'll never see again, who have a bit of business. It happened a lot in the Straczynski run, and it happens a lot in comics, and it's a trope that no one really talks about. I call it the move the car, George trope.
I like it. Is that an official on the TV tropes page? Because it should. Fans should go and make that an official thing.
I think it's in one of them. I think it's an Urban Dictionary. I don't remember.
There you go. That's good too.
But let's go back. The flashback, the swordfish, the Pulp Fiction, we don't start our stories where they begin trope, where it's wasn't always like this.
You know, it's funny. We're actually seeing a really good inverse of that in Detective Comics right now. I don't know if you're reading that,
I dropped it.
I'm really liking what Mariko Tamaki's doing right now because they're focusing on the Arkham Tower, and you're obviously like, well, that's gonna fucking blow up in everyone's face. Everything called Arkham always does. Issue 1, they're like, this is gonna be a problem. They flash forward a month. Oh my god, it's a problem. And the story is now structured. But how did we get here, though? How did we get to the whole thing being messed up and everyone, being behind enemy lines? And I'm like, oh, that's clever, actually. You're using our own knowledge as comic fans to know that this was never going to last, and you're using that as the inciting incident to build up to it. That's clever, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nick can't snipe. Fake out deaths, or at least dead no more / resurrection.
I mean, that's as old as comics itself, right? Will Spider-Man survive? You better pick up the next thrilling issue.
That's not even. Is it? It's a trope, but I also think it's like a marketing device.
Also, that's it.
But the other thing of like going, I'm back. A character like showing up at the end of the last issue or of the first issue. Like She-Hulk ended that way. I don't know if you read the most recent She-Hulk.
I didn't. I meant to, though.
But there's a resurrection in that book, and it's one of those like dun dun dun. Like, yes, the resurrection, but that's a soap opera trope as well.
True. I mean, it's sequential media, and you need that something. You need that spice, that hook.
Yeah. Sol Moretti disagrees with you. I love Bullseye for the fact that he wants to break the hero for no reason in particular. He just thinks it's funny. I don't know if he does.
I mean, sometimes he's a mercenary. He does it for money, but he's very obsessed with Daredevil and Elektra, but we don't know anything about him because he's a mystery. Bullseye is very weird. Bullseye works in spite of himself a lot of the time.
Yes. What else we got? We got your next one here. Villains trying to corrupt / co-opt the image of Captain America.
Yes, this is a very specific trope, but for the last, since Secret Empire,
yes,
it's the only fucking thing they can talk about in the Captain America book. Now, and I get it. If you're a Captain America writer, it's gotta be hard from 2016 onward when you're like, I gotta really, put my finger on the pulse of the nation. What's going on? Yeah, I'd probably feel the same way too, but everyone is doing it and no one's saying anything new. And it's always the same thing. We're going to steal and corrupt the image of Captain America, and that will, bring to fruition our evil plan. I'm like, yeah, the last 3 guys did that.
Right.
And it didn't work then, so why are you trying to do it now?
Because I'm out of ideas, and I don't know. Because Captain America is a household name, and I can't just let Mark Gruenwald do what he. Gruenwald had my Cap, where he's just flying under the radar. Here's Cap forever. Mark Waid, here's some Cap. People just reading it. The people who love Cap just reading Cap. Now Cap is he's got a spotlight on him. People are hyper focused on politics and goings on in America. So Captain
Fox
America
News is pretending to read the first issue.
Oh my god, it's just so frustrating when any news outlet or lack thereof talks about comic books. I'm like, you're gonna mess this up. And
what's really amazing about that is when they were talking about that United States of Captain America book, and they were getting all upset because they read one panel and didn't read the thing. I'm like, isn't there a bunch of alt-right comic shitheads you could have reached out to be a guest at? No, because even you think they suck. Oh, okay, cool, just checking.
It's odd they haven't. Nick can't. Oh yeah. So yeah, the Captain America thing. Don't corrupt Captain America anymore. Let's move on.
Well, it's also
you did it.
Yeah, and you'll never do it as big or as huge or impactful as Nick Spencer did in Secret Empire. No. That's the biggest one. Literally, he was doing it as the whole 2016 election stuff was happening, and it was mirroring shit that was happening in real life. Will never come again. Every other time they try and do it, we're going to steal Captain America's shield and commit crimes with it. Or U.S. agents going to be running around and doing stuff it's been done. It's all been done.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's why I get so frustrated when I see a great idea executed poorly, because I'm like,
agree.
Well, you can't go do that now. You can't do that now. Comic books are like, no, you can still do it. We could do that next. The next arc can be the same thing we tried, but better or worse. Secret Empire is one of those things where it's you did it. You need to put a moratorium on Captain America's evil, or people think Captain America's evil, or Captain America's corrupted. You have to just be no. And that's usually what editors do. Editors usually, they hear a pitch and they go, we did that. And that's no.
it's, you know, it's a thing too. At least there looks to be some light at the end of the tunnel finally, and that is they're actually bringing the Sam book back now, and they're actually going to be splitting Captain America. I'm like, okay, cool. I feel the Sam book's probably going to be more interesting because they're going to let him do stuff that Steve doesn't do.
Almost certainly.
So that's going to be good. I'm actually very excited to read the Sam book. What is it? A Sentinel of Liberty and Shield of Justice or something?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a race to see which book gets canceled first. Nick can't snipe. Heroes being incompetent and letting the villains get away, or being distracted or forgetting that they need evidence, tricked by old villains they know about. Yeah, the being when a new writer forgets that the characters around longer than they were, and or just convenient. It's you know what it is.
It's always convenient.
It's convenient incompetence. That's the trope that I think we're all sick of. Convenient incompetence, where a hero is just like a dumbass, doesn't remember the history of the villain,
forgets powers they have,
powers that they or the villain has. Yeah. Convenient incompetence is one of those things where it's like, it's tough because that's everywhere. And, you know, you are, as the writer, are tasked with not writing yourself into well, how are they going to get out? I don't know, man. You put them there. Like,
a lot of
people, out.
I know a lot of people were really pissed when Ben Reilly fought Doc Ock and how easily he was beaten. And I'm like, no, that's good. He never fought him before, though. That makes sense. Of course, he thinks he's just a little schlubby man. He doesn't know that he's like a devious, one of the most evil minds in the world. And that's how Ock beats him, because he underestimates him. He's like, oh, I took out his arm, so he's useless now. No, actually.
Yeah. But then in that same issue, we have established, like, they did not know what design to go with Doc Ock. So they whipped up that story where, like, he has horrible, severe head trauma and his body's deteriorating.
Yep.
Ben Reilly beats this man mercilessly with his spider powers for, like, at least 3-4 panels. Yep. And, like, all I could keep thinking about was that sequence of x-rays of superheroes punching Doc Ock in the head. And, like, even Ock isn't like, no! Like, you know what I mean?
Leave my brain alone.
Please. Now, maybe it's because Doc's like, this isn't even my third body.
No, I know, right? I assume the deal with the devil brought him back to his prime.
He was dead no more. And then he had the clone body, like the hybrid clone body.
Yeah.
And then, they made the deal with the devil and got a new fat body. I'm sure that there's another clone somewhere. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there always? There's always another clone.
There's always another clone. Clones! I'm going to throw clones out there.
That's on mine, too. Clones, doppelgangers, and evil mirror images. I think we have hit critical mass on all of these.
I remember as a child just being so sick of the hero is being impersonated by somebody, and they act completely out of character, and the supporting cast is bamboozled.
Always.
The most egregious of which in recent memory was, of course, Superior Spider-Man, when Mary Jane couldn't tell the difference.
Yes.
Deliberately.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because of agendas, but like...
Because the story doesn't work if she can figure it out.
Except, like, it would have been much more interesting.
If she was the only one who knew and no one believed her, wouldn't that be interesting and give her something to do?
Yes. Wouldn't it have been interesting? No.
Yeah, nah.
No, I don't like that character, and I don't want to use her in this. I want to use her for 3 issues and then discard her.
Yeah, slowly just put her away.
Is there a trope we could just say, like, where it's just like, I know that we are in a more enlightened age, but can we just say, like, treat, like, no objectification?
It'd be nice. It'd really be nice. And again, a lot of comics are better at it than they've ever been before.
They are better.
But then sometimes they screw up in the other direction too.
This is true. Yeah, overcompensation. I think that's a good trope that needs to stop, because I see that a lot. Overcompensation, where it's like, a character needs to have agency, and it's like the agency is not the same thing as having plot armor.
Yeah, it's also one of those things too where it's like, well, I don't want to objectify Mary Jane. I don't want to objectify her so much. I'm just not going to write about her. And I'm like,
I just want friggin' use her.
Well, that's not good.
No, well, and I'm saying across the board, like, just in terms of not just female characters, but like any character that is utilized in a way that is putting them in plot armor disguised as being progressive. Where it's like, no, look how much we're breaking down barriers here. This character literally can't do anything wrong, and they win every situation, and they're always morally correct.
I think John Ridley tackled that very well in other history of the DC universe with his Black Lightning, where it's like, look, yeah, this is Black Lightning. He is a very important black character in the DC universe, but he's also a guy with a lot of problems and hangups, and he's 3-dimensional is the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't want to write/read about a guy who, didn't have problems and hang-ups.
Completely. That's right. That's why any of these characters are popular. It's not just because of the power set or the costume. It's because we're interested in the character, who they are, and why they make the decisions they make. Patrick going in so far as to say, girlfriend fridging should never return.
It really hasn't. I can't remember the last time they've really fridged a love interest. If anything, they transfer it the other way. And if they're going to brutalize someone for the purposes of, heightening drama and give the hero something to, they brutalize the supporting cast. See Heroes in Crisis, Identity Crisis. DC's fucking famous for this. Let's kill a bunch of minor characters. Let's bring back, beloved supporting characters and kill them in horrifying ways.
That actually speaks to another trope that I have just recognized, which is oh god, there's a term for it actually, and I can't remember what it is, but it's like it's using supporting characters or lesser popular characters, like minor characters or formerly popular characters, and pantsing them or or just diminishing those characters and calling it like a callback or an homage.
Right.
It's like, we don't like. Actually, I was just going to use Vigilante as a character, but Vigilante's actually in the Peacemaker show. But
yes, he is.
Blue Devil,
right? Yeah,
a character that is beloved by dozens, and DC didn't know what the hell to do with him. He went through a lot of different changes, but having Blue Devil, I don't actually know what the hell they're doing with Blue Devil right now, but imagining where they're like
nothing. He was in the season of that last Young Justice show.
Was he really?
Yes, he was. He's the new den father for Garfield, and he's got a Scottish brogue to him. I kind of enjoy, and he walks around in t-shirts, even though he's a devil.
I like that. For a second, I thought you meant the Titans live action show.
No.
And I was like, oh my god, because Blue Devil's in the Swamp Thing show.
That's right. And, for a minute.
But using Blue Devil and being like, and making him like flip burgers or he's like a janitor at the Hall of Justice or something, just taking it and doing something like that. Like, that's a trope I've seen.
Maybe I'm bad because I actually kind of love it when they do that, where it's like, man, when you're not the Trinity, you gig economy, you gotta make it wherever you can make it, man.
That's fair.
People are clamoring for Blue Devil. See, that makes them seem more human, where it's like, oh, that would be me if I existed in this universe and I was here. We all want to be Batman, but let's face it, you'd be Blue Devil.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. I rescind my suggestion.
But I get what you're saying, though. Sometimes it is like, man, you used to be something, man.
Right, and I like the idea of there being like a comeback, but like, it's more frustrating when like a character says they're going to go on a comeback, and there's no support from editorial so that like the comeback is doomed before it even begins. I remember
that happens a lot.
Like, remember when Ms. Marvel, before Marvel decided they needed a Wonder Woman, and they were like, after House of M, Carol Danvers, I need to be the Superman of the Marvel Universe, and I'm going to do it by hiring a publicist, and I'm going to go on this tour, and it was the Brian Reed run of Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
And it's like, Ms. Marvel's going to be somebody, but like the book got canceled, and she was also like diminished and used in a bad way by the Civil War.
Yeah.
And it just completely derailed the comeback tour. And then she was just shunted away until they needed her again. And then they used her. They propped her up, and then they used her again in Civil War II. And people are mad at this character for something that a writer did with her that was out of character.
Like, a long time ago now, she's been paying for the sins of Civil War II, which is also kind of things where it's like, you forgave Iron Man a little quicker. I wonder what's the difference between Iron Man and Ms. Marvel there. What's the difference? You hold grudges against women longer, I guess.
I don't know. But like, at this point, if I were at Marvel, my because of their like retconning of history and their like diminishing of writers that don't work there anymore, I would have a time travel story. I'd have Kang unmake Civil War 2.
I'm shocked that hasn't happened, actually. I'm shocked someone hasn't pitched that, where it's like, hey, what's your new Captain Marvel pitch? I'm undoing Civil War 2. It didn't happen.
Right?
Marvel loves to do that, too, to make big stories out of doing away with shit that fans didn't like.
Dude, actually, I'm pitching... No, it's a Back to the Future story. Where it's like Back to the Future during Civil War 2. And it just... it, like, changes it, or maybe it keeps it, but, like, other shit happens underneath. Anyway,
you know what would be great about that, actually? If you undo it, she has to fight Evil Cap, because remember, they like retconned it to where he was actually puppeteering that whole thing. I can't let you do this, Carol. Why? Because I'm actually Hydra the whole time. Wait, what? Yeah, that's what happened.
That would be amazing. I like that a lot.
So she has to fight Evil Cap to change history.
That's the big change. Is like maybe she maybe she quantum leaps in her own body, and like she's yelling at Tony before everything goes, and then she goes like, she just grabs Steve and like punches him in the face.
Yeah, really. Why did you do that? He's secretly a Nazi. Wait, what? I'm from the future. It's weird.
That would be cool, because at this point, like, there's nothing left from Secret Empire that matters.
Yeah, I guess most of it's kind of been wiped away.
Right? Like, I think Natasha's still a clone, so you could go back and save Natasha and undo the clone shit.
You could. I mean, I guess also Sam being Captain America, but technically that happened before. But it's also all really intrinsically tied, because that he was like a whole big tapestry of things.
Yeah, but Marvel doesn't care, though.
No, they clearly don't. We made him that in the show without having to do any of that.
Yeah, that's right. Panda Go Crazy. I love hearing you talk. It would be about anything. That's very kind. Thank you, Panda. RK, character assassinations for cheap development happens especially with sidekicks or children. I remember when they gave Wonder Woman a future son just to say that she was a bad mom. It's Teen Titans, NW, and SSO. You gotta stop abbreviating these. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, I got some of these, but not all of them.
Oh, Teen Titans, New Warriors, and SSOK. I don't know what that is.
I know what some of it is, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't like that story either. I dropped that run around the time. That was Brian Hitch's Justice League run, where they did like a future league story where it's like, and Wonder Woman's a bad mom.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of Brian Hitch's work.
Me either. Good artist. Can take or leave his writing.
I could take or leave his art. Tevius says, stop doing evil Superman tropes 24/7. It's not fun. I agree.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah, we did a whole show about that.
Yeah, we did.
Also overdone.
Yeah, exactly. Duck K just stepped out of the comic book store with an issue of Ben Reilly Spider-Man. Okay, maybe the clone trope needs to die. Yeah, that one's a retcon book that takes place during his run as the sensational Spider-Man. So, yeah. Yeah. Clones, man. Yep. Silvery Cricket starting a comic run by depowering the main superhero of the story. I see somebody's reading Green Lantern.
Yeah. But I mean, with Green Lantern, it's like, what the hell do you even do? They've made him so powerful. I don't begrudge. If I had to write it, I would certainly knock around that idea. It's like, what can he do now, Hal? He's basically a fucking god.
No, I agree. I actually I dig the concept, especially if like it's serialized fiction. Like, you know, they're gonna be Green Lanterns at the end. Like,
I mean, true. Like, I'm a weirdo too. Like, I never really jived as much with the all-powerful space god Green Lantern. I liked the space cop Green Lantern, and I feel like we don't get that anymore. Like, space god has completely, usurped space cop.
Totally. Yeah. That's not why people like Green Lantern, or at least why he was in any way a fan favorite character.
See, I feel like some people have only read the space god version for something. They don't know how else he is to be.
That's fair. Cat Lawyer, the only thing I want to end is selling characters' death as a sales tactic and villains who have strong point to the story. So the story has them do random evil acts. So basically invalidating the villain's argument because it's getting too, like, it's making too much sense.
Yeah.
I don't know many of those.
Poison Ivy. And again, Poison Ivy hasn't even really been a villain for the last couple of years.
That's the thing, is Poison Ivy is one of those things where she is just... They don't know what to do with her because they want her to be not a villain. But she's also not marketable enough to have her own book. So
but that Harley show is really goddamn popular, and she's really good in it.
She's great. Lake Bell should just be Poison Ivy in the movies.
Really should. Big agree.
Media Max, in comic movies, I hate how the villain had an accident and it's not their fault. They're a villain, like all the villains in No Way Home have no agency. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, that's also all Spider-Man villains. I mean, science accidents are baked into their very being, as it is baked into Peter Parker, a science accident that made him the way he is.
All the villains in No Way Home were all the villains in those
The
other
other
Spider-Man
movies.
movies. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can't blame No Way Home for that. That's who they are. That's
Yeah,
where they came
that
from.
was what they had to work with.
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing: Lizard, he did that on purpose. He jammed
Yes.
himself with Lizard DNA. Sandman, it's not his fault, but he is a bad person despite his protests. Doc Ock, his inhibitor chip was broken, and I guess it was the key to everything. So
mentally ill. He's got
can't
mental
argue
illness.
with that. Green Goblin, yeah, he was forced into a desperate situation in that movie, but also like
maybe he was a bad dad before that. Those movies always seem to want to have their cake and eat it too with Norman Osborn. Either he's a good guy struck with mental illness, or he was always a bad guy and the Goblin Serum just made it worse.
Exactly. Nick can't snipe, using the same villains over and over, or villains having the same power set as heroes. Yeah, we talked about the over and over again thing, but being evil Ant-Man, evil Iron Man, evil whatever, evil Hulk.
It's a little played out. And it actually ties very nicely to another one I had when talking about the same power set thing. No more Deathstroke, Ghostmaker, Abyss, cool guy villains with spin-off potential.
Oh my God.
I feel that's everyone now, and it's driving me fucking crazy. Everyone wants to be Deathstroke. Everyone wants the cool image and the cool action figure. No one wants to be the Mad Hatter. No one wants to be the Riddler or the Clock King. No one wants a bowler hat and a gimmick.
Yeah. It's funny because if it's all about the art. At the end of the day, the success of a Batman villain is all dependent on the art. I had this image of the Mad Hatter, and it's like it's an image I've never seen before. And it's an image of the Mad Hatter. It's a hodgepodge of ideas, but he's got a big friggin' top hat. He's shrouded in shadow, and he has this sickly grin on his face. And it's just like it's just. That's the cover, you know, it's just black. It's just black. And then like the only like spots of light are Mad Hatter. Like Mad Hatter is physically not intimidating.
No.
But if you have a good idea and you execute it brilliantly visually, Mad Hatter's a household villain name. Like
can mess with your mind. He's deeply creepy, endlessly quotable because you can just take a bunch of quotes from actual Alice in Wonderland. Oh, Fragis day, Kalukale, the Vorpal Blade one snicker snack.
But exactly, and it's all public domain, so it doesn't cost you a dime. But like any of these villains could be cool. You don't need to just immediately go, and that's a trope in and of itself, which is just making characters because you know that they will be used in spin-offs and TV shows so that you can get an extra bite of the apple. That is not a trope so much as it is just the way the comic book creator industry works now.
And I can't blame you. I know how poorly you're all paid, but as a reader, it annoys me.
That's right. That's one of those things where it's like, I wish I could just give you more money so you wouldn't have to do that anymore. Because I'm sorry, but most of these characters blow.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they are unearned. They arrive, they are worthless, they do nothing, and suddenly they're like Dick Grayson's secret sister, or they're, a Destiny ripoff in a Batman book, or they're yet another person who works for the Daily Bugle or hooks up with Spider-Man. Like there's a cavalcade of forgotten, discarded characters who mean nothing. There's actually a totemic representation, I think, of these characters that is not successful. It was shown in a backup by a writer who I don't recall in a Spider-Man comic I couldn't possibly place, where there was a character whose job it was work for the city, and he collected garbage that was left over from the superheroes because this writer did not know about damage control and only wanted to establish a character that they own, so that they could have their mark on the character. Again, I don't remember who it was, but so they discard the in-universe explanation as to why they wouldn't have a job. And they pick up after these superheroes, and the one superhero that they have to pick up after the most is Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have to clean up all their webs, which is not a thing because
they dissolve after an hour.
But he has been collecting pieces of villains' suits that were discarded in fights, and he's making his own suit out of all these other villain suits.
So he's the trash man.
Right. I pick up everyone's trash. he has made like an amalgam of all of Spider-Man's villains into one suit, and it's hanging in the closet, and he says like, one day I will get my revenge. And I'm like, blow me. Like, this you are bullshit. Like, you're never going to be used. He never was. And like, it was so clearly created because the author was like, I'm given an opportunity to write Spider-Man. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to create I'm not going to use this to like tell a story I've needed to tell. I'm not going to use this to like make my mark on Peter Parker. I'm going to invent a character so that like, if they use it, I'll get royalties, residuals, or at the very least, notoriety.
Right.
And the punishment was no one will ever remember that except me.
Feels very fan fiction-y, doesn't it?
Very.
If we can give credit where credit is due, Hickman's X-Men run. Hickman didn't really invent a lot of new stuff. He used all characters that already existed.
That's what's so fascinating, right? Like, even the Krakoa era, he don't own Krakoa.
No, that was already a thing.
Right? Like, he doesn't own most of this shit. It's all just stuff he brought back or reinvented.
Remix, remaster.
At the end of the day, like, you know, if they used, and I hope they don't, but if they used like Krakoa for the MCU, the best he'll get is his name will be in the credits.
Yeah.
Along with like 17 other names.
Yeah.
He that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Nerdy Rock Comics says, Sal, I'm proud of you for 100K. Joel, thanks for the keto tips a few weeks back. Love you both and keep on keeping on, dudes. Thanks, Nerdy Rock Comics. Appreciate it, man.
I'm also trying to get back into that right now.
Good. Matthew Terlaga, not so much a trope as saying this will change the universe forever phase in comic synopses, or you will be talking about this for years to come.
Greatly overused and just, dishonesty in advertising, really. Full stop, dishonesty.
Yeah. Panda go crazy. Marvel versus DC crossover is the only way I see comics being saved. Both companies are starting to run dry, and this will be something fresh. I mean, it wouldn't be because it's something they did 25 years ago and then 35 years before that. But like, I will say, I want it so badly. I'll agree with you anyway. I think it would do well.
Oh, yeah. People would talk about it. It would get, main media coverage, which I think is what the comic companies love to see.
The problem is they won't think about it. Like, JLA Avengers is this thing that like should have been a wake-up call for both companies, and instead was just a thing that almost didn't even friggin' happen. You should read, George Perez gave a like diary of the process of making JLA Avengers, and there are excerpts in a Wizard magazine, but like, I hope if George is available before he passes, I'm so sorry to hear about George Perez's unfortunate illness, but like, if he can publish that diary, because it would be a dope ass book. But like, that book almost fell apart like 17 different times.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's 3 issues. 4? I think it's 4. It's 4 issues, for God's sake. Come on. But like, think about it. If you do a Marvel versus DC crossover, like, yeah, do a big crossover. But like, work into the contract that you're doing, like that. Work it already in so you can make the spinoffs. You can make the ancillary things and leave a window or door open so that, like, and I pitched this a long time ago, but like having a third-party publisher publish an ongoing, like even if it's a maxi series, like a 12-issue maxi, but like, and test the waters, like do a 12-issue maxi, Spider-Man and Batman, published by IDW. IDW gets to be the #1 selling comic book of the month every month for 12 months.
They'd like that.
And Marvel and DC take 50% profits regardless. That's all you need to do. And that's just like part of the process. And that's because here's the thing. Marvel and DC also think about like the short-term gains. They never think about like the long game.
No, never.
Which is comics. Like, comics are the very definition of the long game. I'm sorry, I know I'm going off on tangent.
No, I was gonna say, or at least they should be, yeah.
Well, like, I was just thinking about this literally today. Comic books have been trying to get new readers since I was a baby.
Oh yeah, it's the endless thing, that elusive, legendary new reader.
And you know what the lesson is? Because every time they try to get new readers, they end up like screwing themselves or breaking the thing or embarrassing themselves. Regardless, in spite of themselves, new readers exist.
Oh, yeah. Because if you care enough, you will pick it up and start somewhere. We all had to pick it up and start somewhere.
Right. And I think the problem is that they're not being realistic about their industry. And here it is. There's just so many. Like, you know what I mean? There's just so many. Like, we were talking, I was talking on Instagram the other day about this. There's a glass ceiling to comic book YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
There's 100%. A glass ceiling for segments, but like, there's 2.5 million of you. How do I know this? Because the largest comic book YouTubers have 2.5 million subs. That's it. That's the largest. That's all of them. All of them are there. That's how many. So if you're like, I'm going to get to 4 million or I'm going to get 5 million, like, you're not. Those numbers just don't exist.
Are ya?
And in comic books, it's like, there's only so many. There's only so many at one point. And maybe instead of trying to double your sales or, trying to increase the reach, how about you just make a great product for the audience you literally already have?
I mean, maybe that's just business right there. So, but if you're not growing, you're dying.
Well, that is the nature of business today, which is antithetical to like progress, because
very much so.
Because you're only going to burn out your staff and you're going to reach a limit. Like, you're going to reach a limit where this year we didn't make more than we did last year.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't mean you're unhealthy if you're making a lot.
I know, right? It's madness,
like,
isn't
it? You're
still
turning a profit, right? If you're still turning a profit, it's a success. That's how I look at my business. Like, every time, whenever, because my family doesn't watch this shit, but they do know that I do this for a living. And every time they ask me like how it's going, I'm like, I'm making more than I did last year. I make more and I got more views, like more subs, pretty more much. Money. Like, I do as well as I did last year or better. That's a success.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know there's only a certain number of people who are going to watch my stuff. That's all it takes. It's just knowing that and then doing the best you can. I mean, like, and taking your shot, take the shot to reach a bigger audience, but like not dedicating your bottom line to trying to reach some imaginary audience that might not even exist.
Yeah.
Silvery Cricket says, Scott Lang isn't allowed to become a better father, even though every single miniseries and story about him is learning to be a better father.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, some characters do suffer from endless arrested development because that is what they've been sold on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Spider-Man. Will Spider-Man ever be a good boyfriend? I don't know. He's been around for 60 years, and I don't think so.
He hasn't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
The Milkman, I'm tired of secret family retcons, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Nightwing. I'm fine with surprise kids like Dylan and Damian. It gives them new sense of responsibility and chance to make them into new heroes. I'd say both of them are part of the problem. Like, both of them are the tropes, right? Like, secret child, secret family member. I am sick of them. I don't like Damian.
I know you've never liked Damian.
I've never liked Damian. I do,
even though he's arguably had some of his best stuff in the last couple of years.
No, he's had, like, listen, I don't like hate good stories he's in. I'm one of those people who's like, no, but like that character fundamentally changes the Batman family. Like, you can never tell stories about Batman like this, like in a certain bracket anymore.
And now so much time has passed for a certain reader there. They've only known a world with Damian. They don't remember the outrage and the anger and the flame wars when he was first introduced.
That's right. Which I did not participate in, by the way. I just saw it and was like, pass, and just stopped reading it. Rebel Friend, the new Sam book is a one-shot that leads into a new Cap book that will be shared by both Caps.
Oh, okay. So we get 2 in 1. All right, that makes sense.
I didn't understand that either. I thought it was going to be 2 concurrently running series.
Yeah, because they gave them 2 subtitles.
And didn't they do that already? Like, wasn't there like the Steve Rogers Captain America and the Captain America book? Like, during Secret Empire, there were 2 books.
Yes, there was.
By the way, thank you for your congratulations. I appreciate it, man. People, by the way, I'm sure who are here who are like 100,000 subs. Last time I saw you had 14,000 subs. Yeah, I don't know. On the other channel, youtube.com/ComicPop, we got 100,000 subscribers and verification. Now, I guess the trick will be to see how far we can go with this channel.
But yeah, we were talking about secret family members there. Obviously, the Nightwing one. I don't mind the Nightwing one because, again, it's just, his dad was fucking. What do you want? He was young. He was fucking. It happens.
Yeah, I guess I'm like, why? Like, for me, it just sounds like I'm adding my stamp on the character. And my stamp can't just be a good story. It has to be a character that will be intrinsically connected to that character forever.
What I find funny about it is not only is she a sister, but also was raised by the guy who killed his parents. And I'm like, wait, but didn't he already have a daughter in the Snyder book? Why didn't you just bring back that one?
Because I don't own that character. I won't get residuals for that character.
I guess not.
Eduardo Perez Rubio. Hey guys, hope you're doing well. For me personally, heroes should stop hiding their identities from the people close to them. Secret identities should be hidden from your villains, not your friends. Y'all rock, keep it up. That's one of those things
eternal back and forth.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's one of those things where it's supposed to be frustrating. You're supposed to be like, why don't you just tell them? But also, and that's kind of fun and juicy in its own right. But I do agree that artificially extending it is the problem.
Yeah, and we've seen the pendulum swing both ways. Like, again, all these new young Marvel champion heroes, all of them were honest with their parents at one point. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice and interesting. And being like, yeah, we're going to be a new generation that does stuff differently than those who came before, because we saw all the drama that comes with keeping it from the people closest to you. And then they kind of walked it back with Ms. Marvel because we're doing TV and we got to have it match up, even if I didn't like that retcon, but we did it.
Yeah.
And the CW is an entire DC universe built on the back that so many people know who the heroes are.
Yes. I mean, the MCU is like, everyone has to fight with their masks off.
Yeah.
because I paid a lot for those faces.
And also because we're not comic writers, we're movie writers, and we don't want to have to deal with the same bullshit that you have to deal with.
Right. Even though it's the same shit, you're still telling stories about people, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that also dovetails into one of your topics, which was long lost blanks.
Yeah, long lost blanks there. Long lost siblings. For me, it's more long lost blanks as villains that bug me. Long lost blanks as friends and allies, I am much more softer and opening to.
Yeah.
But the long lost blank as a villain really gets me.
Yes. Chance Topper, personally, status quo is being reset out of convenience is a trope I hate the most. Have a great day. You too, man. Thank you.
A lot of that.
Yeah, just being like, I'm on the book now, though, so everything's different.
And again, there's a big difference between resetting the status quo and putting the toys back in the box for the next guy. Again, Hickman in Inferno, perfect example of that. Okay, I told what I wanted to tell, mostly, and now I have set the table for the rest of you to go from here.
Yeah. Arguably, Spencer's Spider-Man did the same thing.
Also that, too. I reset it.
Right, like, he's like, I opened this box, I dumped all this shit out, I spread it all over the room, I swept it all up, I put it into a box, I put it away. Also, while I was doing that, I picked up a couple other garbage pieces on the ground, and I put those.
But you won't miss those, will you?
Right, exactly. Andres Toro, I hate the trope of one character that can't stop just suffering in life because their books won't end. Daredevil's been through 10 twingers, and I guess Hulk is just
cosmically
destined to eat crap. Yes, that's right. No, Hulk is Jekyll and Hyde. Hulk is like, oh, woe is me. He can never not be that.
It's a horror story. See, to me, it never bothered me when that happened to Hulk and Daredevil, because their stories are tragedies. They're Greek tragedies is what they are. Their lot in life is indeed to suffer. And for the Hulk, Al Ewing brought it to the nth degree, where Hulk literally had an audience with God and say, why do you make me suffer? Why do you shit on me from such a cosmic height, oh Lord?
Right.
And God being like, because it's your lot in life, bitch. Deal with it.
Because you're a fictional character. As long as people buy the book, you might get a happy ending if they cancel your book.
See also Animal Man, same deal when he had his own talking to God. And I was like, because it's good drama. That's why. Because I am the writer and have deemed it so to be.
Right. Well, do you have to kill my family? I guess you're right.
Yeah, I mean, like, all right. You win one.
Yeah. Cricket says rewriting a character's personality over and over again to serve agendas or fix non-issues or random straw man. Like, I've been reading comics for years. What is Power Girl's actual personality?
Well, that's just Power Girl in a nutshell right there.
Power Girl not having a personality is her personality. But as far as fixing non-issues, I mean, like, that's just to bottle it up. It's agenda-driven storytelling.
I mean, shit, the big agenda for saving her and Huntress from the destruction of the original Earth 2 back in the day. They're pretty ladies, so we like to draw the pretty lady. And if you put a pretty lady on the cover, more guy buy them.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't read any of that, so I have no idea what the.
That's literally what it's always been when they saved them, but not anyone else from Earth 2.
Oh, sure, yeah. Nick can't snipe. Amnesia is a great plot device, or sexual assault for reasons. Assault not being tackled with care or nuance. It's tough, man. The problem with nuance is that like you're writing a comic book, and it's a comic book that's like approved by 17 different people.
Yeah.
Now assault is like one of those things where if you are going to tackle that, if you're going to talk about like real world, big time, like serious heady issues, you need to have an editor who's like, okay, if you're like, if I'm going to approve it
sensitively and everything.
Yeah, like if I'm going to approve it, I got to make sure you carry it over with grace and dignity.
And they don't really do that as much in superhero comics anymore. Again, I think the last time they really did that was the whole Dr. Light Sue Dibney thing. And that was so fucking distasteful. And people were so pissed. I think both companies just stopped and have not gone back to it.
Yeah, it would, if it ever happens again, it'll be because it's on a book that no one's reading that like went completely under the radar. It'll probably happen in a Marvel book because Marvel has no editors, but like...
They actually, in the new Detective Comics story, they kind of had an implied sexual assault thing. Like one of the orderlies at Arkham Tower is being like creepy Terminator 2 guy. But the woman he's doing it to is also like a super powerful serial killer who kills the shit out of him. So she was never really in any danger, but they were kind of like, flirting with like, oh, is there like some real danger here?
Jam Call X, quit monetizing every other hero identity. I'm sorry, mantalizing? Yeah, mantalizing every other hero identity, because that word refers to a key position or office. You can pass a role without the name, like Sorcerer Supreme, Defender of the Universe, or Team Chairman. Yeah, I mean, like, Doctor Strange is the Sorcerer Supreme because that was when they invented the title.
Yeah.
Making other people Sorcerer Supreme, it's been proven, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, it's maybe one of the most worthless titles in Marvel.
Right? It's Doctor Strange's title. When it belongs to somebody else, it doesn't elevate them. It doesn't help their book. It doesn't save anybody. No one in the Marvel universe cares. Nobody in the readership gives a shit.
Loki didn't need it. It didn't help launch Brother Voodoo or the Hood.
Nope, it's not going to help anybody. And those are mantles that are just kind of like, what are you doing? Like, that's not. Yeah, I remember when when Batman referred to the mantle of the Bat like years ago, like decades ago, and being like, is that a thing? I mean, like, you're Batman. Does it matter who's Batman? Like, I guess it, I mean, yeah, like I've never, like, it was like the first time I'd ever been challenged to think like someone else could be Batman. And I'm like, I don't know if I give a shit about that. Like, I don't think I'd read it if it was about another person.
I mean, I guess Elektra is technically the woman without fear right now, but she was like already great before that and had already been Daredevil for like a full year before they even decided to slap that little subtitle on for the little tie-in mini.
And honestly, like, Elektra being Daredevil is one of those things where I love the costume. I think it's awesome. But like, is she Daredevil? I mean, like, Matt is still Daredevil. It's not like she's like, I'm going to do, like, it's Elektra in a Daredevil suit.
She was a villain, but, that's the whole thrust of her story, learning to understand the beauty and worth of heroism and the sanctity of life and everything, and trying to unlearn all the assassin stuff.
Yeah. And I buy that, but I'm also not like, I don't know. It feels more like an element in a Daredevil story as opposed to a new status quo for a character.
Kind of, which is maybe why people weren't so pissed about it when it happened, where it's like, no, we're changing Daredevil. It's like, no, this is just a thing that's happening in the Daredevil book, everyone.
And I think that has everything to do with nuance and writers. It has to do with like how well handled it is. Marvel didn't go like, ladies and gentlemen, freaking female Daredevil, you're welcome.
Yeah, for one time they didn't do it.
It's because the book doesn't sell great. It sells well enough to keep going.
And critically acclaimed.
The Captain Coon. Here's one thing that's getting annoying. Versions of characters from different universes or realities that override the original version.
This is really the year of it, isn't it? This is the year of the multiverse. The multiversal takeover, if you will.
Completely. And I, for one, will be very sick of it if it keeps going.
I'm getting there.
Khalil Frederick, when a character for some reason is gone for years, knowing they've been gone for a long time, and then surprised or angry, their significant other is with somebody new.
Yeah,
that's just a plot device. I don't know is that it? Yeah, I guess it's a trope, but it is.
And it's also very soap opera. I was in a coma. Why did you cheat on me?
I was on an island. Yeah, exactly.
I thought you were dead. You were in the fucking Cancerverse. Get off my balls.
Right? DIYer, here's a couple of bucks for time travel. Thank you very much. Let's hope I can make it. RK, I was trying to mean Tom Taylor's Nightwing and Superman Son of Kal-El, where both have Dick or John ask why their fathers were so afraid to do more despite their dads having done more in the past. Yeah, no, I mean, like, the idea of the hero, of the new hero being like, I'm going to finish what they started, or I'm going to do what they never did. I'm like, no, you're not. Because the reason they didn't do what you never did is because they weren't allowed to. Like, because you can't have Superman just rule the world. That's another universe. It's called Injustice. You can't have Superman stop crime or save or stop pollution. Like, but Superman easily could.
I mean, I think it's also too, you know, really trying to speak to the youth of today as well, too, who are brushing so much up against the older boomerier generation and being like, but you could have done it, but you didn't. But why didn't you? And you're not even super and you could have done it, but you did. These guys are super and couldn't do it.
Dude, we did a book on back issues about a young adult and how awesome they are. And there were so many opportunities for the author to have that character who is so like self-assured, that they are like awesome and cool. Find that they are awesome and cool, but not because they're like special magic or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the it's the Sky High problem for me.
Yeah.
It's like, I got my parents are the biggest superheroes in the world and I don't have powers, which makes me shit. And then it's like, wouldn't it have been really cool?
Also, nice Sky High reference.
I like that movie a lot. But
I do too.
Wouldn't it have been cool if, he, you know, everybody counts him out. His father, his mother, his colleagues. He goes to sidekick class, and what he finds out is like one of them's really good at like weapons or technology, and basically what he does is he studies really hard. He becomes friggin' Batman, but like a high school Batman who's like really capable, or maybe he like impersonates those powers, like he can fly, and through his journey to mimic his parents' abilities, he also learns these skills that make him an actual hero. And like, you know, you have the scene where he can fly and he's doing stuff, and like, you know, there's a big bombastic reveal where he fails and where his technology crops out, and it's revealed, oh, he's a pretender. He has no powers, but he thinks he could be one of us. And then he single-handedly goes like, well, I know your weakness is this, and I know your weakness is this, and I can do that, you know, and just dismantles them. Where it's like the lesson
That's a good
is,
Elseworld story you just wrote.
Right, but like the lesson is power comes from within.
Yeah.
That like the powers don't make the hero. But instead, he's just like, no, you have all the powers and you're super awesome. That's not a lesson.
No, it isn't.
Cat Lawyer says maybe Barry shouldn't run as fast as he always does.
Yeah,
like
just maybe.
Yeah.
Just slow it down just a little bit.
I think they've knocked that off. You were going to say?
I was going to say, just slow it down a little bit. I lost my point. I was going to say something else
about Sky High.
Superboy, but it's good. Yeah, or about Sky High.
Yeah. Oh, did George Perez pass away already?
Oh, no. Did that actually happen? Did I
miss that?
Oh, shit. Oh, you look into that, I remember. Yeah, the thing I like about Tom Taylor's Nightwing and Superman Son of Kal-El thing is also this idea that I think a lot of people are missing, and that is, the reason that Dick and, you know, John are doing and saying the stuff they are now is because part of the fun of them is that you can do things with them that you couldn't do with Clark and Bruce, because those characters are so forever kept in amber and plastic by editorial and by DC. You can have them explore new far out ideas and do interesting stuff and, you know, go against the grain in a way that Bruce and Clark never could. Likewise, Sam with Captain America.
Right, exactly.
Because writers are a little too fucking precious with them, because that's what makes them their money.
Exactly. No, George Perez didn't pass away.
Oh, didn't he?
No.
Yeah, I saw a thing of him the other day there. He was still alive.
Yeah, I saw him with his parents.
Because I was going to say, like, unless he died in the last hour while we were doing this.
Right. I mean, yes, Louis Anderson passed away, but that's not George Perez. Luis Lopez using the multiverse instead of the main universe. I don't know what that means. Like, I mean, I guess it's just, why don't you just have it happen here instead of being like, oh, no, there's a multiversal thread, or there's a multiversal character, or an alternate version of me. I mean, yeah. That's not so much of a trope as much as it is just like, I'm sick of it.
I mean, yeah, like I see it come down to like a freedom thing too. Again, as Tynion said before he left, the reason I created so many new characters is because everyone else had so many freaking editorial mandates behind them that I just didn't want to play the game anymore. I'm like, so is that why there's so many multiversal stories now? Because you can just do whatever you want because anything goes in a multiverse?
Yeah, and that's one of the problems is like they need to like editorial, these big two, they need to like rein in like the rules of writing in this universe. like there needs to be a set of not standards, but certainly writer like or of like if you're gonna write like these titles, they take place here. You know what I mean? Like you know, your villain isn't from. You know what I mean? Like just ground it.
And maybe that's the problem, too, in our era of multimedia where everything's getting a movie and a streaming series and a video game, that they're all like, no, well, these are the things that are making the real money. So the comics, better, reflect these as well as they possibly can. And we don't want to rock the boat.
No. Fit says introducing a legacy character by making them perfect, giving them OP powers with no drawbacks, and then never trying to set up an iconic status quo. I mean, Mary Sues are a thing that have been around forever, and that is the problem. Your issue is with Mary Sues and Mary Sue replacements, and I haven't seen too many of them lately, but like I hear what you're saying. Young Goku over 9,000. Remember Rick Grayson? Let's never do that again. That's just the thing you didn't like. I don't think. Although Matt did that, but he did that deliberately. Like Matt Murdock did that when he.
So no more amnesia to change characters just for a little bit,
please. Dex Baker busy with work, so I have to catch us later. Okay, thanks for hanging out with us. Dan V900. Rick with no K, where Higgins made fun of it at Marvel. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, they do it. They made fun of it at DC.
That was good. I had another good one here.
Yes, please.
Speeches that start with, we're not so different, you and I. Now, I don't so much hate that in concept. I hate it when characters say it. One of the most beautiful things about Zdarsky's Daredevil run right now is how he has so beautifully been able to parallel the stories of Matt, Elektra, and Kingpin, but at no point have any of those characters sat down and said, we're not so different, you and I. They don't need to say it because they show it.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
That totally chaps my ass when characters straight up say, we're not so different, you and I.
Yeah. No, I'm so done with we're not so different, you and I, across the board. I remember it happening in Spider-Man and being like, what? Like in the movie.
Yeah.
Just being like, really? We're still doing this?
Yeah.
That was 2002.
Again, you can do it, but you don't got to show it. Another one here, too.
Yeah.
More than one hero, no more moment. Spider-Man, of course, made it famous where he, trashes the costume and walks away. Now it feels like every hero does it more than once. I think the rule should be you can have one hero no more moment, but only one. You got to pick the right chance for it.
But even then, like, how do I know when that time is going to be? Do I reject 1,000 like good ideas until one guy finally has a one that I agree with?
That's the problem. Is I feel like Chef from South by when you're ready, you'll know.
Exactly. You have another one, redesigning the costume too much.
Yes, or redesigning it for like completely superfluous reasons, like when they redesigned Miles' costume. Yeah, there was a story reason it got messed up in a clone fight, but it doesn't look as good as the other one. Why?
Right.
Why did you change it? He's gonna have another one for the movie. What was the point in changing it?
Because I want to have my stamp on the character. Like, I want my costume in there. I want to because I played the Miles Morales game and there's a bunch of made up video game costumes and not enough in canon comic book costumes.
That's what it feels like. Likewise, when they changed Miss Marvel's costume for a minute, at least they kind of did like a riff on the whole black suit story where the costume turned out to be evil by the end. But like for a whole like 2-3 arcs, I'm like, why does she have a costume that's not as good as her other one? And they're just going to change it back anyway for the show, and they did.
Yep, that's right. Matthew Terlaga, companies not being willing to fully embrace LGBTQ plus characters or alternate lifestyles. In the Harley show, the fans were in a frenzy about whether Ivy should be with Kite Man or Harley, and I was like, why not both? Yeah, I guess. I mean, like, here's the thing. I don't think that, like, I think they only like slightly implied Harley and Ivy having a relationship in the first season. And then they went, oh, we can do that. And then like went full tilt with it in the second season.
Well, they wrote both seasons back to back. Which is why there's only that's why there's only a month between season 1 and season 2.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
They always knew that was going to be the arc, and I think some people lost their fucking minds. But like, what do you mean I was watching a queer love story the whole time? Yeah, man. Yeah, you were.
Yeah. And I think that the issue is just like the issue with why I think it's perceived that they don't fully embrace this is because I think they're doing it where they're like, let's not. It's the same problem. And when I say problem, I mean problem from their perspective, from publisher's perspective, that Dwayne McDuffie complained about when he wrote Justice League, which was if you have more than a few black characters on the Justice League, suddenly the Justice League has become a black book. It's the same in Hollywood. If you have more than a few black characters, you now are making a black movie.
Sounds crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if you have like a lot of different LGBTQ plus concepts in one story or characters in one book, you are not writing a mainstream book anymore.
Yeah, which is crazy to think.
And that's the issue. It's not necessarily a trope, though. Static Nova, want to thank you guys for getting me into comics with shows like these and back issues. If you guys, oh, I'm sorry. Well, thank you very much. You're welcome, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you guys could write any hero or villain, who would it be?
Green Arrow, but I'm too close to the material. I'm sure it would suck.
Yeah, Spider-Man, I'm too close. It would suck, but I do have a couple of ideas lately. And really, it's just like I have a list of characters that people who in the audience have said I should write, and any of those. Like, it's just characters that I want to be put into a hole where I'm like, who? Okay, and then figure it out.
I mean, we've done like 100 pitches on this show about like stuff we would do if we could write it.
It's true, yeah. Max M, honestly, I just dislike the creation of new characters when they are characters who are already established that can be used just as effectively. Yeah, no. Riri Williams should not exist. Jim Rhodes had a genius teenage black daughter or niece, and Riri Williams is that character, but with a different name, and Bendis created her, so now he owns her. And
now she's getting a TV show.
Now she gets a TV show. Like, it's just because that's the nature of the industry now.
Gotta get that money, gotta put your own stamp on it.
Taylor, I also dislike Damien. Hey, thanks, Taylor. All right, we got one. The Captain Coon, turning a hero's friends who haven't been used in a few years into villains and making them villainous, like Liz Allen, pre One More Day, and then her written by Slott and a few issues in Spencer's. Yeah.
Yeah, that does happen a fair amount, doesn't it?
You covered that one where it was like a villain, like, or a character showing back up and being like, I'm a villain. Long lost blank.
At least that's long lost friend and or classmate, not long lost familial connection.
That's true. Juwan Fincher, killing characters nobody really thinks about. Heroes in Crisis, I'm looking at you. Just not sure if it's been said. Yeah, we talked about it.
I mentioned that at the time. Brutalizing minor characters for drama, where it's like, come on, what did those characters do to anyone? But again, that's overcorrecting for fridging, where it's like, well, we'd want to kill his love interest, but we can't, so I guess we'll kill all these other characters.
Yeah, so we'll kill Matter Eater Lad, you know?
What? Why?
Aaron, watching live for the first time. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Aaron. Welcome to the show. NBL Paladin, when comics are over-reliant on certain characters and ignoring underrated ones like Batman recently.
It's true.
Yep, that's a big problem.
When was the last Mad Hatter story? When was the last anything story?
Daniel Vakura, when a sexual orientation is changed, previous relationships aren't acknowledged, like Bobby and Kitty with their future child from Wolverine and the X-Men. Now Tim and Stephanie. Tim is bi, so it should be referenced. The thing about that is that, like, is that in Wolverine and the X-Men, the comic book? I think so. The Iceman thing, I remember that being more accepted because Iceman's relationships were always super tumultuous and problematic.
Yes, which again, I think we all know someone in our own lives who came out later in life, and it's like, now that makes sense.
Right. And like, in terms of, I don't think that Bendis executed Bobby's outing well at all.
No, it Black something or other? What was that story?
It was in that stupid X-Men book where it's just, it's when they're in the past, in the present.
No, but
Black Vortex, yeah,
Black Vortex, because he got outed in the Black Vortex Guardians crossover, where Jean looks into his mind and ends up outing him.
She's like, it's one of those things where it just happened to be that Bendis picked that character because there's no way he looked it up and like saw that Bobby has had no like significant relationships that made it like work. And yeah, the other thing is, gay people can make children.
Yes, it happens all the time.
Cary Grant had daughters. Like,
absolutely. That's the thing. That's another thing. When people complain about that, I'm like, you don't know a lot about the gay community at all, dude. You've never had anyone come out to you, have you, is what I'm hearing.
But in this particular case, like, I don't agree with the idea of changing an aspect of a character for arbitrary reasons.
Now, on the Tim Drake front, and again, we can talk about Catwoman too. People forget the Catwoman came out as bi a couple years ago, and here's the problem with that. She came out, and then writers stopped talking about it, and they threw her back into a relationship with Batman without it ever being mentioned or ever coming up again.
That feels like they were like, don't do that again.
Yeah, and I'm like, ooh, see, now that makes you look homophobic, and that's the problem, that you don't honor the bi-ness of this character to be like, yeah, well, we made her bi, so we can have our cake and eat it too and just throw it around however we want. And, and no one can say anything about it because then, you're the problem. It's completely fine, for bi women to be in heterosexual relationships. You're the problem, not us.
Right.
And I've had lots of bi fans tell me that, where it's like, look, we have no problem with it. We're just hoping the next writer will honor it, though, because when they don't honor it, then it feels like a slap in the face.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. In the case of Tim, okay, Bobby's an older character.
Yeah.
And despite his longevity, you can pinpoint every relationship he's ever had and how they never really went anywhere. And it's like, just because nobody had a good pitch for an Iceman romance.
And Morrison had a lot of fun with it in their run too.
Yes, that's true. In terms of Tim, I don't agree that it is like, I don't know. The Tim thing is, there is no evidence in Tim's history of this change. And
right.
like, there isn't. And I don't agree with it, but I also understand that, like, it's one thing to create a character that is satisfying a niche or being made to appeal to a demographic. Like, there isn't enough representation in comics. I will create a character to be representation man.
Which they do often, and those characters don't get the push.
Like, they go away, they disappear, they die, and
they never get the push they deserve.
Right. Well, they never get the push. Do they deserve it just because they're being made a token? Like, I don't think so.
Well, again, going back to that John Ridley thing, how you all love John Stewart, the Green Lantern now, and he was 100% created to be a token back in the day. But over time, when different writers come on and infuse it with their own being, it all kind of ends up being worth it. And by the end of that story, Black Lightning and John Stewart understand each other and are standing on equal footing.
Yeah, but John's a Green Lantern. John wasn't created to be like bisexual man who has who has light powers and can push you hard. Like, there's no.
But at the time, he was Black Man, basically. Like, ooh, look, we've written a Black Man. Isn't that amazing, comic readers?
But still a Green Lantern. And it's the same with making Robin or a former Robin bi. That was a situation where they went like, where the writer said, I would like to create this opportunity to appeal to, this demographic, and I can do it with a character that DC editorial does not regard.
No, they've never regarded him.
And it will reach, they'll write articles about it. It'll get a lot of exposure, and they'll talk about it. And maybe it will bring some light to my message, or maybe it'll like highlight the fact that like characters can have this revelation at some point later in their lives. So I recognize the value of it, but it also felt very artificial. It felt like it was a thing where I'm like, I want to make the worst of it. And I don't know, so I can't speak to the motivations, but I would hate to imagine that the character made Tim Bai so that person's name would be in articles. That would really be detrimental to the movement, to people who are bisexual, and to the character. I don't know if that's true. I don't actually.
We probably won't know.
We'll never know. But that and the problem is, when you don't know the intent of the author, you're only left with the product that they've created. And in terms of Tim, like, him being bi doesn't change the character for me in any way.
No, of course
but
not.
I will say that I've literally read like his entire origins, and there's no evidence to support that. But like, sometimes with human beings that you meet, there's no evidence to support that they were bi in the first place.
And and like, even on its face too, I was thinking of this myself. I'm like, well, Tim's been a young college age guy for like 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, he's never gone to college, and I'm like, maybe he's just experimenting, man, and that's fine too, and that's totally worth exploring in a story. But comics can't just explore something. They're one thing or the other in comics.
Well, because you can't just. It's like when they made Wally West black because they thought that nobody cared about Wally West, and then they went, oh, they really have a problem with this. But we can't just like have Wally go into the Speed Force and come back out white, because that would be racist.
That's deeply fucked up.
And we can't have Tim Drake get into a bisexual relationship and then go, turns out I'm not bi.
Yeah, we're done with that, because then that makes you look even worse by extension. That's gay baiting, and that's really bad.
Even though that also happens, like. And it's like, you can't do, but you can't do that in this kind of
because superhero comics are no place for nuance.
Yeah, right. Well, because you'll just take the panel and put it in like Newsweek.
No.
So that's the issue. And it's why I'm like, this is not emblematic of the problem, but it is like an element of it where I'm like, you need to really like go through like a vetting process when you want to change a character in a significant way, because like you don't think about the implications. It's like when they made Wally West black, and it's like, well, now you have a new character. And listen, Wallace has been out of that, you have a new character.
Yes, who's managed to stick around for, well, until Wally came back and was Flash again, and then they dumped him off the face of the earth, and it's like, see, now you had a new black character that you all forgot because the shiny white boy came back.
But I don't know if, like, arguably, I would say that was like a tone-deaf response from editorial, who were like, nobody cares about Wally anyway, we'll just change him. And it's like, you didn't read the room. And it's not reading the room about making a character a different race. It's more like reading the room about the character and how people identify with that character.
And maybe the problem is that a lot of comic book editorial is made up of older, straight white men who probably shouldn't be making these decisions on their own.
That's fair. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Or maybe just like, don't make sweeping changes without thinking about the implications or the reaction to those changes.
Which is comics in a nutshell, really. Like, you didn't think that through, did you, before you killed that character or before you did that?
Right? That's my issue, where I was like, not even with race bending or sexual orientation changing. It's also with like changing a character's costume or adding a new member of the family or you know, any number of changes. And it's like, but you just did that because you knew that it would get buzz, but you didn't think about the long-lasting implications of that character going forward and how that'll impact the universe and the character. And it's like, yeah, no, I didn't do that. I never do that. So yeah, it's a big topic.
Very much so.
Daniel also says Death of X series where characters return about a year or two later. It means nothing. Having said that, bring back Alfred, who was not supposed to die anyway. Yep.
Shocked Alfred is still dead. I really thought he was coming back at the end of that Robin arc. He still might.
I think the Robin arc is entirely created so that, like, he's like, I did this so that I could have access to the Lazarus Pit so I could bring Alfred back.
Yeah, I really assume not just that, but like a very special Lazarus Pit.
Yes, and a Lazarus Pit that will make Alfred healed and also not crazy or bad.
That's good.
Edward Bedore, coming soon, The Brief and the Temporary Death of the Justice League. Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. That's good.
And it is. Like, they're only doing it as a kind of like joke. Dan Wesley, just spending a bit of money your way. Thanks for the great videos. Thank you, man. Aww. Thanks for hanging out. And for your support. Nick can't snipe. Not letting characters resolve their relationships like MJ and Peter, either keeping them together or let them grow apart for once and for all. Pick one.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that.
Many relationships in comics, isn't it? Not just MJ and Peter.
This is true. MJ and Peter are like the poster children for that problem.
How many long-suffering couples do we have? All of them basically are long-suffering. Even the married couples like Reed and Sue are long-suffering. I was going
to say, yeah, like Reed and Sue are constantly like, are they going to get divorced? I'm like, no, but it's weird that they keep having so many problems. 343 Burning Legion, forgetting interesting character development for villains because the story needed a flat antagonist like Rhino or Zemo. Thunderbolt, Absorbing Man. Yep.
Yes. Excellent examples.
Jack O'Connell, they should give Tim a new Red Robin book. They haven't even tried to give him a run since New 52.
That's the thing, too. If you're going to shake up his status quo, don't make him do it in the backup of Batman Urban Legends. Give him at least a #1 so you can ride this to somewhere like actually interesting. That's what chapped my ass, too.
Yeah. The big two don't like recognize an opportunity to make money or capitalize on the controversy that they themselves generate.
Yeah, people were actually talking about Tim again. That would have been a great time to again. You can read all about it in Red Robin #1.
It's the same problem I had when they launched Black Label and they had Batman Damned and everyone was talking about it. And it's like, okay, book Jim Lee on the next episode of anybody.
Whatever. Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, man, pick it up. It's $5. You can see Batman's dick. But for the added bonus of also getting a damn good story with some killer art. Like, hey, now comic books just got major exposure on a late night talk show.
Yep.
Oops, we didn't do that. Instead, let's pulp the books that exist. You're a moron.
Yep.
Like, it just kills me that they don't recognize opportunity when it's right in front of them. Panda Go Crazy, is there any gods that don't have avatars on Earth yet?
Nope, everyone's got their favorite. Every theology has their favorite guy.
Yep.
Or gal.
You have another one that I love, which is Lovecraftian horror.
Yeah, can we give that shit a break? It was fun and novel like 5 years ago when like everyone was really getting into it, like, yes, the great old ones. Horror is so mind-bending that even to look at them would be to drive you mad. Now everyone's doing it. Now we got fucking Cenobite Batman. We got like everything's a Lovecraft
Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's a fucking Lovecraftian horror. Do any type of horror. I know there's other types of horror out there. Do any of them, please.
Yeah. They have overdone the Lovecraftian angle to a ridiculous degree.
Too much of it. Again, to, shed some more praise on that Shadows of the Back Detective Comics run. They're doing kind of like the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You're in a mental hospital. Everything's kind of messed up. You don't know if you can trust the patients or the orderlies. I'm like, ooh, that's good horror. I like that.
Yes, and that's a thing. Like that's like a trope that hasn't been used recently.
The hospital horror genre.
Yeah. Edward Bedore, DC's Final Crisis got me to stop reading comics. After that, I just refused to read anything with Grant Morrison's name on it. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. And you have another one that I love. It's the biggest problem I have. It's the biggest recent modern trope. Writing for the trade.
Writing for the trade. This really hit me up just recently because for better or worse, I've been enjoying Spider-Man Beyond. 2 issues. You can tell full stories in 2 issues. Oh, so you could do it. You just haven't been doing it.
Yes. We've been deliberately decompressing stories to fill trades.
Writers are more than capable of writing stories with beginnings, middles, and ends in only 2 issues.
Yep. The writing for the trade is they've been doing it long enough where they've gotten to a rhythm.
Yep.
But some folk are better at it than others.
Very much
and
so.
It shows. Matthew Tolaga says villainous characters getting a pass for the horrific shit they did in the past because they're popular, like Harley literally murdering children, Deathstroke having sex with a teenager. Yeah, yes. I was thinking about that recently.
The Deathstroke one drives me nuts. The Harley Quinn stuff is more like, discontinuity is all over the place. But in the New 52, they had no fucking clue what they were doing with her. I'm more willing to give her a pass than I am to give Deathstroke a pass.
Deathstroke, they never changed it. With Harley, it's like, well, there have been crises since then.
And Harley's been so many things. Deathstroke, it's Judas Contract, one of the only things people really know about him for sure, so they never want to get rid of it.
Do you know what they should probably do? They should just take a page out of the White Knight book and just be like, there have been 6 Harleys.
Yeah. Cut their losses. Yeah. Well, again, you're not reading the Detective Comics. They're kind of doing that in Detective Comics now, but it might be Stephanie Brown undercover. But yes, there's another crazy woman in Arkham who claims to be Harley.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's a great idea. Pancake Pappy, as a Firefly fan, thoughts on Whedon's situation? I don't know what you're talking about. Whedon was created by Tim Minear.
Yeah, really. Tell me about it.
Everything I like about Firefly was done by Tim Minear.
I don't know about that other guy.
I don't know who that other guy is. All I do know is he's very self-indulgent, and he doesn't know that in an interview, people write down what you're saying.
He had 2 years to work with the best PR people in the world to get his story straight, and he still shot himself in the fucking foot like it was an Olympic goddamn sport. Yeah, he's done. He's finished.
Fine.
Yeah.
We've outgrown Joss Whedon.
Agreed. More than agreed.
But listen, we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us. And we want to especially thank our super chatters for sponsoring today's episode and asking some amazing questions and giving some significant contribution to today's episode. We really appreciate it. Let us know in the comments down below if there's a trope that we have not covered that you are sick of. Drop it in the comments, and we will continue the conversation there. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe to this channel, get more updates about when we update here. We have Elseworlds Exchange, Off the Rack, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and even Letters Page, a show where I open up letters and packages with my crew. And visit youtube.com/Cape Joel to see more Cape Jolie goodness. It's over there. And we'll see you guys next time with an all-new episode of Elseworlds Exchange next week. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us. I will see you guys later. I'm Sal.
I'm Joel.
So long.
Bye-bye.